Carrie Daly, and I'm a marketing specialist with Atlantis Computing. We will be starting our webinar in a few minutes, so if you can just hold tight till then. Thank you for joining. Good morning, everyone, and thank you again for joining Atlantis Computing's webinar, Maximize Your Sales and Profits. My name is Carrie Daly. I am a marketing specialist with Atlantis Computing, and now I will be passing it off to Joel Davis, our VP of Sales for North America, and he will take you through the rest of the presentation.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Carrie. All right. So thank you very much for joining, guys. This is going to be an exciting and fun deck. I'm going to start off by trying to challenge your traditional way of thinking and open up maybe some new profit opportunities you were unaware of. I'm also going to show you kind of some of the competitive advantages that you can get by working with us very closely, and you can see what you can do, and if you do it, what happens to your competitors. So this is really great stuff. It's real world stuff. It is truly secret that you don't want your competitors to know. And what's funny is, we've done these kind of presentations before, and a number of solution providers immediately respond and want the deck, and they want to get on it and utilize our tools. And then a number of them don't, respond. They get busy, they do other things, and they come back a month later and ask, but what was that deck you sent? So one of my other things I want to ask you guys is, if you like this presentation, you think there's a way for you to make money with it, don't wait. Get to us right after this. We'll get to the deck, got some great tools, and work with our sales directors and channel teams, and we can really, truly have to put some numbers up on the board. Solution providers that work with us closely like this have been known to put up $1 million in incremental revenue in really a week span of time. So these are secrets. They do work. They don't cost you any money. They just do require you to think differently about your market approach, and think differently about the way you're going to solve your customers' problems. So with that being said, let's get into it. I'm going to build out this slide. I'm not going to make you go through 1,000 slide builds. So just a quick snapshot of who we are. So at Atlantis Computing, we've been around for a while. As you can see, we've swept pretty much all the major awards from the VMworld and Citrix perspective, as well as Storage Magazine of the Year. It's pretty phenomenal. Over 350 customers, over almost 500,000 licenses, 450,000 all round up by the end of this quarter or this month. It could be that many. And what's great about it is we are basically helping and enabling an ecosystem of partners to be very successful. So obviously we're very closely with VMware and Citrix, but all the major server platforms you can see, and you also see us work more closely with a lot of the storage providers. Recently we had signed an agreement with ILIO In-Memory as an example. But again, we work with all these guys in a very kind of Switzerland approach. The fundamental value prop that we provide works across all these very nicely. But from a solution provider perspective, it does give you game-changing differentiation performance. And again, there's a lot of guys in the marketplace that talk about, hey, I'm in VDI or I'm in XenApp, or they want to use software-defined storage. Well, let me just tell you this. There's no other firm in the industry that is focused on software-defined storage for the virtual data center and can do it and has done it and are doing it right now at scale. Okay, they're not doing it at 90,000 desktops in production. They're not doing it at Colt, the largest vCloud and desktop as a service deployment in Europe for VMware. They're not doing it at the National Labor Medical Center. They're not doing it with U.S. Army. They're not doing it with VFO. I mean, the list goes on. So when you look at the main companies that are in, or that are the customers that we have, it's a blue chip customer base. I mean, look at some of the logos: healthcare, government, financial services. I mean, we really do. If for whatever reason, the guys in financial services really seem to get what we do. I think the more competitive the environment, the more people look more closely at the balancing of costs and performance, CapEx, OpEx, deployment, and risk mitigation. And that's why I think the financial services guys who have to do that to be competitive seem to gravitate towards what we do. Said another way, if you can make it in the financial services area, you can probably make it in most any other vertical. But not just that. Look at government. The government uses a similar kind of approach because all sorts of security and other kinds of demands that you need. And again, we've nailed some of the biggest and most high-profile areas in the federal government, and more to come. Healthcare, of course, has been an early adopter of VDI and XenApp, and we got some fantastic names that we mentioned already. From a consumer retail perspective, not a bad set of logos. Also on the services and tech telecom, we've got another set of logos. Education, another high vertical, high propensity high vertical. But every one of these customers, what's good about this customer group that you see, it's a theme I want you to think about, is they thought about solving the problem a different way. It is very easy to just look at the problem for VDI or XenApp and say, well, I'm going to do what I've always done. I'll buy more hardware. Really? That's your strategy? That's the exact opposite of virtualization and all the efficiencies and economic gains that you can get from virtualizing either XenApp or VDI in a different and unique way. Hence, software-defined storage. We really are truly paving the way and pioneering a software-defined storage message around the virtualized data center. So let's talk about why should you as a solution provider pick this up and do this with us. Well, first of all, build a new margin-rich business. I've talked to a number of Citrix resellers that lament that there's not been a lot of profit around some of these products and or enterprise markets because Citrix has changed their go-to-market strategy. Sometimes they go direct, sometimes they don't, sometimes they allow the reseller to work, sometimes they don't. With Atlantis, all those problems go away. If you have an installed base of XenApp customers, physical or virtual or migrating from physical to virtual, doesn't matter, literally you have a huge opportunity to go out and mine your customer base. So I would ask everyone to be thinking about, write down maybe 3 or 5 names of large accounts that you have in your customer base, whoever the accounts might be, but the bigger the better, and let us help you go sell them. All we need is a 20-minute appointment together on a webinar, and literally we can help you find probably millions of dollars worth of product sales, service sales, etc. The other thing that's interesting is there's a lot of performance problems with existing physical implementations. And as they begin to look at potentially migrating to a virtualization or a virtualized infrastructure, there's a way for you to combine the best of both. And that's a neat value add, a neat kind of trusted advisor position where you can talk to them and they might say, look, we're physical, but we want to go to virtual, and we've got some problems in between. We've got some problems with our physical today, and we're concerned about going to virtual. Again, utilizing our approach, which we'll show you at the end of the deck, you're going to see some great questions to ask, some great ways to approach these guys, and really become more of a business consultant and trusted advisor versus a traditional, old-school legacy reseller who thinks all routes or all roads lead to hardware sales. And that's a race to the bottom. So the third one is there's a great deal of flexibility at cost reduction that we can bring. I don't know a single CFO that won't want to hear your message. If you can get to the CFO level and just say it very simply, not only can I improve performance, but I can dramatically reduce the CapEx and OpEx costs for your infrastructure. And by the way, de-risk it. What CFO isn't going to want to hear that? I mean, that is right at the CFO angle. So those are the three main benefits, but there's a few more at the end we'll get to. So let's look backwards and say, what problems are we trying to solve from an end user perspective, and then we'll walk to how you make money. So successful XenApp projects depend on making everybody happy. All right, well, that's not always possible, right? So you've got users, they've got everything from bring your own computer, bring your own device, to every kind of mobility and application access that they're trying to get to. And by the way, because of their experience with Apple iTunes and other kinds of consumer cloud-based and or virtualized applications, they expect fast login, fast application performance. There's no session free, Liz. Don't come to them and say, yeah, it takes you 3 minutes to do this and a minute to do that, oh, and you got the blue screen of death or whatever. No. That's not what they expect. That's called the consumerization of IT, and that's exactly what's happening. The IT departments now inside of companies have got to deliver equal to or better than that outside experience, because then the end user is just going to get fed up and not use it, not adopt it. And that, by the way, is the number one reason why you see failed virtualization products or projects is the end users don't want anything to do with it because the performance sucks. All right, now the IT guys, they're stuck in the middle, right? They've got to make the users happy, and they're going to go to the CFO. So we'll come to the IT guys last. The CFO basically doesn't want to keep spending money. I cannot tell you how many large accounts we've been at, just in the last 4 months alone, where the CFO turned to the IT guy and said, guys, there's no more storage purchases available. We've got 3 times the storage we need already internally. Why in the world do we need to buy more storage? Well, because unfortunately that IT department was thinking about things in a traditional legacy way. They kept thinking about it, well, I've always bought X, Y, Z, so I'll buy more of it. And eventually the CFO is going to say, no, stop, no mas. Okay, we're not going to do it. So I think the important thing here is to understand that with Atlantis, you're going to lower the CapEx cost. You can also reduce the OpEx cost inside the data center. And as you'll see in a second, you can avoid a lot of the surprise cost overruns during migration. We have a couple of great soundbites from end users that talk about the impact of underestimating the previous write cash flow and what it did to their budget. It was pretty amazing. It's pretty scary, actually. So the IT guys are stuck in the middle, right? Got to make users happy. Got to make the CFO happy. They've got to simplify all these migration and all these different upgrades that are going on. Oh, and by the way, their boss is saying, look, I need to do all this with less people and less money. And guess what? It's happening. The migration is happening. End of life for presentation server and XenApp 5, it's March. And you can see XenApp 5 and XenApp 6 coming up in January of 2015. So again, if you've got a large corporation, thousands of applications that have been literally virtualized, in that spot or virtualized, when those things end, we're in trouble. You're in big, big trouble. All right? So what happens when you virtualize XenApp? Well, first of all, the PVS write cache does grow. No matter how great you are, if you try to predict it and model it, it grows. And you'll see what happens in a second when that occurs. Cost of storage keeps increasing during and after deployment. Think about this for a second, guys. This is really interesting. One of our largest customers told us this. They said that CPU and RAM, essentially the compute layer of technology, has the twin economic drivers of it gets faster and cheaper every single year. And I think in the last 10 years, CPU performance has gone up like 20x. It's some incredible number. It's not like 5 or 10. It's like 20x. But yet, the traditional way of thinking and solving this problem is having this run and relying on storage. And storage performance in the same time period has only increased about 2 or 3x. So, the more you can put in CPU and RAM, the faster your projects will run, and the ability to scale gets less expensive, not more expensive over time. So it's very interesting to think about that. So more of the compute layer, essentially leveraging a software-defined storage platform like Atlantis, actually puts the economics and technology drivers industry right behind your project. It's pretty cool. By the way, doing that solves all your end user, pretty much your application performance problems and end user experience problems. We got a great example of the help desk calls. That's a great question to ask too when you talk to end users. Tell me about your virtualized environment. Tell me about your application virtualization. Tell me how many users, how many hosts, whatever. Hey, how many help desk calls you guys getting? And you find that number out. It's usually pretty frightening, and there's some reasons for it. So you'll have to have IT departments say to you, my XenApp environment is perfect. It runs great. Life is good. Everyone's happy. Oh, really? How many help desk calls do you get a day or a week or a month? When you find that number out, that would be a better arbiter if that statement was true or not. And of course, we talked about this over and over again, the ability to scale. Again, if you think about it, is it easier to scale by throwing lots of storage at it, consuming more data center footprint, more power, more cooling, all the storage and network traffic bottlenecks, or is it easier to do it with a software-defined storage approach? Let me build this slide out. So now to understand the challenges, here's the main project failures. We had one end user tell us that for every 10% off he was off on the PBX write cache sizing, it cost him $500,000. Literally $500,000. And they grow. The PBX write cache is going to grow. It's going to grow when you add new applications. It's going to grow when applications that you have already get upgrades and improvements and updated and fixes and patches. Oh, and by the way, it's going to grow when you add more users. So all those things are going to make this thing very difficult to contain, if you will, and manage. And guess what happens? Cost overruns and project delay. Literally, we have seen companies where they were off by so much that people did lose their jobs over it. So this is not something that's trivial. It sounds like it's technical and you can't understand it if you're on the sales side of things, but I can guarantee you this. Anyone that's running XenApp then understands about PBX write cache, sizing, and the risk that goes along with it. The second major, project failure driver is poor performance. Slow login time, users complaining, slow application performance. And just think about this. If these are really important applications and they're running slowly, how is that impacting the business in terms of their revenue, their customer service, their ability to be agile and answer problems for their customers? So again, you can do that a little bit faster, a little bit better, eliminate those blue screen good death, et cetera. You're really in a good spot to help them be successful. And then the last one, again, the inability to scale. A lot of people don't realize this, but when you move from Windows Server 2008 R2, it doubles the IOPS. So picture this. You talk to the guy, life is good, they're going to go from X to Y, ask them, are you aware of the IOPS impact of that movement, of that migration? 9 out of 10, they're going to say, no, they don't. So now to understand the main problems, let's talk about how we solve them. One is, we're going to address the PBX write cache sizing growth and risk. We're going to make that problem basically go away. We're talking about software-defined storage, leveraging CPU, RAM, and compute. Okay, that reduces the cost and complexity. And you're not going to have storage and networking and all these other bottlenecks. Those problems pretty much go away. Because of that and where we sit, the applications actually fly. Boot times, application launches, provisioning, all the metrics that gets IT departments all hot and bothered. They are going to be very excited, as will the end users. And again, the last piece is scale. We've got automated deployment services allow you to roll out things faster than anyone else at massive scale. I'm talking across hundreds of servers, dozens of racks, thousands and tens of thousands of users in an automated fashion. So let's look at the deployment risks one at a time, trying to keep a good pace here. And what you're going to see in the next couple of slides is this is what you would do if you were a reseller that was stuck in the 1990s and you were thinking about problems the old way, the legacy way, and you wanted to continue to fight in a race to the bottom on margin by selling traditionally. Okay? So what you do is you'd have, gosh, I've got PBS-wide cash growth. My customer says they got to fix that. I don't want that to happen. So what can happen with them is I'll work with them and I'll figure out a way to sell them more storage or more servers, or just I'll sell more hardware at the problem. Well, what's interesting is when you do that, they can start off sizing it perfectly for Office 2010, but then it grows when Service Pack 1 is installed. Oh, by the way, they run out of storage and they move to Office 2013, and at the end of the day, they end up with a blue screen of death way too often. So again, the definition of insanity, keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Not going to happen. So what I would argue is, why not just use Atlantis to come in there? Okay? Why don't we just basically say, look, if you install, if you use Atlantis ILIO for XenApp, we're going to neutralize, mitigate, etc., any of that previous write cache growth. You're going to have better control over deployment timelines. You will be on project timeline and under budget. And because of your automation, you can do this very quickly and basically eliminate complexity and risks. So think of that, the left side is do it the old way, fraught with danger, maybe think about it differently, software-defined storage way, and do it on the right. But let's make it real from a money perspective. Some of you say, that's great, Joel, and we can try this, and we can try that. Hey, listen, it all comes down to money. At the end of the day, there are many ways to solve a problem. Some are better than others. But again, think of the left column as I'm a 1990s reseller trying to compete at lower average selling prices with lower gross margins, and I'm a seller that's making my commission on lower GP every year. Makes it tough to make a living. So what I would say here is you can go down and do that path. You're going to see PBS write cache growth, basically leading to cost overruns, SSD failures because they're not built for VDI. By the way, that's very true. The SSD vendors will tell you that. And you'll increase the OPEX, and you've got user density limited by the I/O. So basically what happens is you have fewer users per server, which means you need more server, and of course, you see what we talked about on the storage side. So they get 14 IOPS a desktop, they drop $600,000 at the problem, and the cost per name user is $320. You can do that. You and every other reseller on the planet can run, of course, the same exact hardware and the exact same name brand vendors, and hopefully you'll win. And then procurement puts it out to a fantastic bidding process that brings in everybody and their brother. Or perhaps you approach it differently and ask the IT department, have they thought about, since they've got so much of their data center already virtualized, have they thought about software-defined storage as a new way to approach this problem? And guess what? In this case, there is no storage, or much less of us to purchase or manage. By the way, because we're on each host and not going to get all the network problems it used to have, we're going to increase the density per server. So guess what? We've actually seen deployments where the server capture play, the server CapEx reduction play, helps pay for a significant part of the XenApp licenses. But look at the performance. Oh my goodness, up to 5,000 IOPS. We're saving them $400,000, saving $400,000. So, let me get it straight. If you're the reseller on the left and you quote 600,000. 600, well, just call it 600,000 roughly, and another reseller with Atlantis comes in there and quotes, say 200,000, I'll round it up. Who's going to win? If one reseller is 3 times the cost of the other, who's going to win that deal every single time? Well, I think it's the guy on the right. Better performance, 68% reduction in storage cost savings, and of course the cost per desktop is unbelievably low. So that's a real-world example of, again, if you think about the old way, think about solving problems with, throwing hardware at it, or just, well, we did it that way 3 years ago, we'll do it that way 18 months ago, we'll do it again. No, think about it a different way. Here's another example. I get questions a lot about SSDs. SSDs are great products. They do work. They weren't built for VDI workloads, but they do work in some cases. They're very small, 10, 20 users, 30 users, that kind of thing. We had a customer, it's on our customer website, that bought Fusion IO cards, and they performed fantastic. It was excellent. HMSA, Blue Cross Blue Shield, a great VDI success story. So they bought it, and they got 20 users per card. If you do the math, it was like, I forgot the exact number, but it was like $1,000 of storage cost per user. I'm pretty sure, that was actually a VDI, so I probably shouldn't use that exactly. You get the idea. We took it to over 300 users per card. It's the same kind of thing here. You've got a certain number of IOPS per desktop with an SSD, device, and at the end of the day, you're going to drop, pick the number, 100 grand, 125 grand. It's kind of the left column again, and you're going to see a total, cost per concurrent user session of 126 bucks. The cost per main user is 63. And what's interesting is with us, we're going to give you again. It's not a fair comparison. 125 IOPS versus up to 5,000. I mean, that's like a Lamborghini and a donkey. Okay, I mean, come on, really? That's not a fair comparison. The next thing is you're going to see dramatic, cost savings there, and you're going to see a lower cost per concurrent user. Again, that's just an example. We'll send you the deck. We have an ROI calculator that helps you build these things in under an hour to really get people's attention. There are users, believe it or not, that are using XenApp on a SAN. Not really exactly sure why, but maybe that was the only way they could do it back in the day. Don't know. But again, similar model, right? They've got I mean, again, it's a Lamborghini and a donkey. You may want to quote me on that. Maybe pony. Pony would be better. Lamborghini and a pony. All right, because 14 IOPS versus up to 5,000, that's not a fair comparison. And then look at the 68% cost savings. So again, you're the reseller on the left, and you've got the Atlantis reseller on the right. Who's going to win? You're going to win every time. All right? So you're going to have a much better user performance at a much lower cost. I mean, that's an amazing cost there. All right, so we'll give you those slides. We'll give you our calculator. We can show you how to run the model. And I think the point is, if you look at this thing in a different way, you will win every single time. Okay? Now, we've hammered home kind of the financial piece. One of the things we didn't talk about yet was user experience. I love it when IT departments tell me how great everything's running, and then you ask them about help desk calls and trouble tickets and all these other kinds of things that are going on, and you find out it's pretty big. So Carrier is a big Citrix reseller in Europe, but they also use XenApp for themselves. This is a case study. It's a white paper. It's on their website. Really a fantastic story. This is their story, their words. We actually did a webinar with them not too long ago. But without Atlantis, they had a lot of network bottlenecks, storage bottlenecks, session freezes, performance problems, and guess what? End users call the help desk, right? Pretty simple. And so as they're rolling their XenApp out, you can see what's happening to their calls, error messages, application frozen, all that stuff. Okay, so everyone on the call, if you're following along still, guess which month they installed ILIO? Okay, you guys are all pretty quick. So basically, you saw a 70% reduction in the call volume. And that is a fantastic story, because what you saw then is basically they'd set things up, things were technically working, but it was so inconsistent that the end users were having trouble getting their job done. And basically installing Atlantis eliminated all that. So essentially, that's a great example of how you de-risk a project, drive fantastic end user experience. If guess what means they probably want more of that. And again, everyone's happy. CFO's happy, end user happy, IT department's happy. Here's another example kind of on the left. So go ahead and let's talk about virtualizing XenApp and flexibility and scalability. Let's get a fiber channel. Let's use our expensive Tier 1 SAN. Let's have lots of local SSD, islands of disks. Okay, how great is that? What a great strategy. Let's keep doing that over and over and over. Spend lots of money. Maybe spend $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. Maybe that'd be fun to do. Or why don't you think about it using software-defined storage? Or why don't you, as a solution provider, make a ton of money around selling more software and more services? I mean, that's kind of the big game here, right? Anybody on this call that makes their money on gross profit margin, Atlantis is the one. Now, you can and you can also still sell storage if you need to or want to. The point is, you now have a different way to approach a problem. Not every hole needs a drill or a hammer to put the nail through it. Maybe there's a different way to think about it. Plus, If you were to go in and talk to an end user and say, guys, what if I could tell you there might be a way to solve the problem without buying any more storage? You'd be very unique in your messaging. You'd probably get an appointment. So let's summarize. Deployment risks, scalability, flexibility, performance calls, deployment. You guys all have to talk about that. That middle column is what happens when you do it the old way. And you can do it the old way, and some of you are going to do it the old way because that's just what you're going to do. But the guys that are doubling their revenue or tripling their revenue year over year, the guys that are making a ton of money around services because they increase the gross profit of the overall deal because of software services, our automated deployment, our simplified architectures, showing their end users amazing performance, which means they get new use cases to go after. That's the Atlantis reseller on the right. Can't hammer home that point close enough. We do have reference architecture testing and completed and done, and I just love how some of the vendors that come out with these recommendations, and then you see what reality is. But the net of it is, the Citrix's guideline is 4 apps for medium workload. We're again, this is like Lamborghini and a pony. Okay, so 240 IOPS, come on, versus 4. So, all right, so kind of wrapping up this webinar, last couple slides, and we'll open up for Q&A. Definitely you can increase your margin, okay? You can make more. Every reseller I talk to in North America tells me the same thing. The highest gross profit margin we make is on our own services. So what I'm trying to figure out is why wouldn't you want to sell more services, which makes your ownership management team happy, makes you more commission, and makes you stickier and harder to get taken out of an account. It gives you more account control. Why wouldn't you do that? I think you should. Second, you're going to win more bids. I just went over that, ad nauseum, right? So if you're the reseller on the left, good luck. If your quote's $1 million and the one on the right is, 400 grand. In fact, there is a recent win we had. I can't reveal the names because it's confidential. But one of our top resellers in the country took down a very large deal. And I'll just tell you this. Here's the net summary. Before Atlantis, the project was still over 1,000 XenApp users and virtually no Xen desktop. The Citrix team was stuck. They couldn't sell anymore either. By working together with us and a partner, we helped them sell 18,000 XenApp licenses and I think it was like 1,000 Xen desktop licenses. Citrix was incredibly happy. The partner was incredibly happy. The end user was incredibly happy. But let me tell you how the reseller was able to win this and make a ton of margin on it. The reseller's proposal to the end user was $15 million with Atlantis. When procurement put it out to bid, some of the normal suspects you know about, kind of national level players that like to drive margin down to cost plus 2 and basically undo all of your hard work and all your value-added selling, their quote was over $20 million. That's no typo. So the reseller we partnered with quoted $15 million, won the bid, and made a ton of money. And their competitors, because they thought about it traditionally, they thought about it the old way, they tried to solve it, again, by throwing more iron at it. I think it's the exact opposite of virtualization, I'm not sure. Their quotes were over $20 million. That's a recent win in the last 90 days. I think the third one is most important. For you new sales reps at a reseller today, you're probably trying to build a book of business from not a lot. And so if you go out there and do the same thing everybody else does, how will you differentiate yourself? How will you get that appointment? How will you, amongst all the people, so almost all the same products, become that trusted advisor? I would argue that it's very difficult to do. Well, we have the tools and the processes, all of which are free, all of which we can give you show you how to do, that enable you to put net new appointments on your calendar in the next 2 weeks. You can differentiate yourself from everybody else. You can go in and approach the problem with a unique and different message and solution. And if you're a new business development rep or a solution provider today, I can tell you this, the secrets that your competitors are doing is their reps are using Atlantis as a way to open up new accounts. Now what's interesting is the more senior level guys are using Atlantis to go back to their large accounts they've always sold to and have them basically mine that install base and actually having them think about the problem in different ways, and get revenue from their install base of accounts that they didn't know they could get. So they could go back to their end users and say, okay, you got 10,000 XenApp users, it's primarily physical, some physical go into virtual, it's great. Did you know that I can probably help you do that, overcome the main risks around XenApp virtualization projects, and I can do it all with a software-defined storage approach for your virtualized data center. That's pretty cool. So regardless of whether you're an experienced sales rep mining your house account base of large accounts, or you're a new rep trying to get new accounts, or you're trying to get competitors' accounts, this is a fantastic, unique, door-opening, edgy, thought-provoking, thought leadership kind of a approach that you're guaranteed to get appointments. By the way, by doing that, and you include this in your bill of materials, you're going to be looked at as an innovator. Innovators are thought leaders. Thought leaders people want to talk to. IT developers want to talk to thought leaders. They don't need to talk to the same guy who gave them, six other guys who gave them the quote for XYZ storage, ABC server, and whatever. Okay? Lastly is supersizing projects. I mean, that other example I gave you, I mean, it was a 1,000-seat deal when we all got involved, and we were down with 18,000 seats. Okay, the Citrix team, standing ovation, they're ecstatic. That wasn't in their quota. So I think the important thing is we got enough, ways to prove that. So this is the Kelway example. I talked about this already. I'll send you the deck. U.S. Army Medical Command, fantastic win, again with a partner of ours. It's a press release and case study on the website. Very demanding environment. We're talking about doctors and nurses trying to save our troops' lives, and fantastic experience. Okay, so just wrapping up, I think you know who we are. Definitely proven at scale. We can cut costs. Honestly, very recognized. And we're basically, I got to be honest with you guys, I worked at VMware for 4 years. Here at Atlantis, we've really become kind of the subject matter experts on large-scale deployments. There's a lot of ways to solve the problem if you got 25 or 50 seats. I mean, a lot of people can do that and whatever. But as soon as you have mission-critical and large-scale environments, we're pretty much the guys that are the go-to guys. So this is the last slide in the deck. It's for all the solution providers. We have a variety of fantastic tools for you. These are all free, web-based, or you get a partner portal. You can also get it from Atlantis Computing folks. But we've got 9-flash online sales and SE certification, 2 to 3 hours for sales, probably half a day, 4 hours for pre-sale, half a day, 4 hours roughly for post-sale. Basically, get certified for the sales side, and half a day or less, and you can get completely pre- and post-sale certified in roughly a day with us. Free web-based self-paced. Got some great sales guides with elevator pitches. Got some great pricing and quoting tools. We have a fantastic ROI calculator, and we've got it built with Kaizen discovery documents. And that's, by the way, guys, if you want to avoid POCs or mitigate the length of POCs or jump to a much higher level in business level discussion, utilize our discovery documents and our ROI calculators, because that's what we're doing. And we're going to be sharing some of our best practices with you on how we do that in an upcoming webinar. But we closed a number of deals with no POC at all, just simply sizing and config, modeling with the customer and the partner, and then an ROI calculator, and it was done. Okay? And then lastly, for anyone that's on the phone that wants to send out emails and try to drive appointments via email templates and our webinars, we got them. We got them for free. They're proven to work. You can also talk to your local Atlantis Computing sales director if you've got maybe some local high-end customers, for like a CIO roundtable or like a lunch and learn or stakeout at a dinner place, whatever. But those are the internal tools for yourselves. And then we've got a variety of end-user tools: at a glance, reference architectures, the new VDI reality book, case studies, all those kinds of things. So that is basically the deck. I wanted to go through it. XenApp is a very exciting opportunity, and with that, I'm going to open it up to Carrie again, and we'll come in and we will answer any and all Q&A that you might have.
Okay, Joel, right now we actually don't have any questions, so if anyone is still on the line and wants any more information on anything that was presented today, please type your question into the question bar on the right side of your screen.
So, Carrie, I do have one question for the team, the folks on the line, and that is, if you guys are interested in learning, kind of how we do our sales process, and how we learn to qualify opportunities and kind of run a playbook that can get you from the first call to a close in about 4 to 5 calls tops, let us know with an email. And we're working on that webinar, and we'll make sure we invite you to that. But we've learned a lot in closing hundreds of VDI and XenApp deals, continue to double the business, year over year for several years. And there's a lot of school of hard knocks of what to do and what not to do, and how to upsell and really, protect your margin. And of course, almost everything we do is through the channel on a worldwide basis. Certainly is here in North America. So, any other questions, Carrie?
No, we still don't have any questions. So,
okay.
Thank you guys for joining us today. Our next session will be on the best approaches to VDI on November 11th. The link for that, as well as the recording to this webinar, will be in an email that you guys will receive tomorrow. And if you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to either myself or Joel. Thank you again for attending today.
Thank you.